Hey my friend, this is Gavin Mountford here and welcome to episode number 13 of the Attraction Marketing Guy show. I'll be your host, Gavin Mountford, and in today's episode I'm going to share with you step number 5 of the 6-step sponsoring sequence, which is communicating with purpose. This is critical because if you're not communicating with purpose on social media and Facebook, what's going to happen is you're going to waste a lot of time, you're going to end up with nobody actually signed up, and you're just going to struggle essentially, which it may be where you're at right now. So there has to be a specific communication with purpose. Now, if you'd like to get access to today's show notes, please go to networkingsuperstarz.com/13 and you'll be able to download today's show notes. So communicating, it's a big field, isn't it? How do you take somebody that you don't know through an entire process? How do they start to get to know, like, and trust you? How can they see that you're credible? How can they see that you're a real person? So ultimately they join you in your business. How does that process actually happen? And I looked at this for months. I actually went back and I thought, all these people I've just signed up into my business opportunity, where did they come from? Where did I find them from, or where did they find me from? And the 6-step sponsoring sequence is exactly that process. It's like a 30-day invisible funnel sequence or an invisible funnel process. And somebody finds you from somewhere, maybe a piece of content that you create. And what tends to happen is, over time, they gradually start to get to know, like, and trust you. And when you have a conversation with them, when you actually communicate with them, all of a sudden you become a real person. You're not just a person on the computer screen. You know, when you actually take the time, or they reach out to you, or you take the time to reach out to them, whether it's on Facebook or Skype or another social media channel, you all of a sudden become a real person. Now, the great thing with a communication is this needs to be a communication with purpose. And the purpose, the focus of your conversation with somebody is to actually sign them up into your business opportunity. But there's a conversation that needs to take place first, a gradual process. And you may have heard me talk about touch points before, multiple touch points. And essentially a touch point is when your prospect takes action and does something. So it's a touch point with you, and what may happen is they may open up your email. That would be a touch point. They may click on a link in your email or read your email. That's a touch point. They may like your post on your fan page or your profile. They may share it. They may comment on it. That's a touch point. These are all multiple little touch points that are happening throughout the process. And in order for somebody to get to know, like, and trust you and believe you and see that you're a real person and trust that they then join your business, you have to take people through multiple little touch points. A touch point could be a conversation on Facebook, for example. So let's say you message somebody and they message you back. That's a touch point, because you've reached out and you've physically touched that person. You've actually taken the time, and the more of those that you can have in the process, the more powerful this will be. But it's not just random touch points, it's touch points and communication with purpose. And the purpose is to take people through that process until they sign up with you. And essentially you have to get, one of the goals that in this conversation or communication is to actually get your prospect to admit that they're struggling. I mean, how many times have you had a conversation with somebody on Facebook and it's been like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, great, thanks. What about you? I'm doing pretty well. Where have you been today? Oh, I've been to London. Oh, great, yeah, me too. Oh, fantastic. But there's no real purpose to it. You're just wasting time, essentially. And very quickly you've lost the posture and you've actually lost the conversation flow. You're not in control of that conversation anymore. But when you communicate with purpose and you take people through the process, you use the touch points, that person gets to know you. So let me just run through what the process is so far with regards to the 6 steps. If you've been listening or watching along, you'll know the process is creating compelling content which attracts people to you, capturing the leads that come as a result of that content, connecting and actually making friends with that person so they get to know who you are and they can see that you're a real person, And then one of the things that does happen as well is, and again, you can go back through some of these trainings to hear how this all works, but your prospect actually joins your Facebook group or Facebook community. And once they've joined your community, what I normally do is I'll send them a private friend message, or I'll add them as a friend and I'll send them a private message. And that opens up the dialogue to the next step. You've had the engagement and the commenting, which is step 4. But the 5th step is the communicating with purpose. So create, capture, connect, comment, communicate. So somebody's joined your community and your fan page and your Facebook group, and they're open because they're interested in what you have to offer. Because you're the owner of that community, all of a sudden your prospect sees you in a position of power and a position of authority, and you have the posture. So when you add them as a friend, and when you send them a quick message to say, hey John, I've just approved you in our community, great to meet you, whereabouts do you live? 70% of the time those people are going to reply back to you because they see you as somebody in authority. And if I look at our Online Entrepreneurs Club or our UK Entrepreneurs Club, when I do this process, at least 70% of the people actually come back to me and message me, and they reply back. So this opens up the communication. Now, as I said before, the goal of the conversation that you have now with your prospect, and the conversation could be on Skype, it could be on Facebook, it could be on the phone, and it could be on another social media channel or outlet, but it's just a conversation that you're having with your prospect. But one of the things that happens, and this is something that you need to think about a lot, is that your prospects, they do not trust you, they do not believe you, and they think you have a hidden agenda. They do not trust you, they do not believe you, and they think you have a hidden agenda. Therefore, think about it for a second. If somebody comes to you and they say to you, they message you on Facebook and they say, hey, it looks like you're a like-minded person, how are you doing? What tends to happen is your BS detector kind of goes off and you think, hang on, what's this person want? Why are they messaging me? And what happens is your distrust level goes up quite quickly, and you're literally just waiting for the link, aren't you? You're just waiting for them to say spam link, spam link, spam link, or here's a great opportunity, will you join my business? You think that's what's going to happen, and you've got to think about, actually, that is what your prospects think that you're trying to do as well. Whether it is or whether it isn't, it doesn't matter, but you want to ideally change your approach and change your focus. So instead of thinking, I'm going to get them, think, I'm going to add value to that person's life. I'm going to do what I can to reach out and find somebody that could ultimately become $1 million producer. And imagine that. I mean, just imagine you contacted 100 people over a week, and you had a conversation with 100 people. One of those people may be the next big producer in your business. I call it mining for diamonds, or searching for diamonds in the rough. Because there's thousands of people out there, there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and some people are going to be your next big producers. So as you go through this conversation and this communication, you need to get your prospect to admit that they've got a problem. Because unless they admit that they've got a problem to you, you're probably not going to get them on the phone, and you're probably not going to be able to offer a solution, and they're probably not going to join your business. Often people come to me when they've got a problem. They're struggling for leads. I'll get a message saying, hey Gavin, what's the best way to use Facebook ads? Or maybe they're struggling to generate or create content. Hey Gavin, how can I do content properly? It's because people have problems and they need answers, they need solutions, they need to make money. So this process is, I want you to imagine the conversation or the communication as a process in itself again, a gradual process. And I often have about 6 messages backwards and forwards between prospects or with a prospect to uncover their pains, their problems and their challenges, and to get them to admit that they've got a problem and they're struggling. So a couple of things that I'll say, and these are a couple of ideas that you may want to write down, is I'll ask them, whereabouts do you live? whereabouts do you live in the UK, or whereabouts in the world do you live? Because that's just an open question. It's something that most people will reply to. And my goal is to get people to reply backwards and forwards and say, yes, I live in London, or I live in Birmingham, or I live in Austin, Texas. Somebody comes back and they say that. And often what I'll say in reply to that is, great, that's a lovely place. I've never been there before, but I've heard a lot about it. Or, if you can find something in common with the place that the person lives in, talk about it. I've been to Austin, Texas, so I'd say, I've been there. It was fantastic. It's very hot, by the way, but I'm sure you know that because you've been there for years. Or if they lived in, let's say, Scotland, I would say, yeah, I've been there. Again, beautiful place. But it's literally, you want to find something in common with the prospect where they live. Now, don't tell lies, because you'll get found out easily. But you want to find something in common with your prospect. What I often say next when they come back is, I'll say something like that. So I'll say, so let's say they lived in Austin, Texas. I'd say something like, oh, fantastic, that's brilliant. I went to the Live the Dream event in Austin, Texas last year, and I loved it. I really did. Oh, by the way, which business are you currently building? And they'll come back to me and they'll say, I'm building, just for example's sake, I'm building Amway, for example. I'm building Amway. And then I'll come back to them and I'll say, fantastic, I've known of Amway for many, many years. In fact, it was the first business that I ever joined, and that's true. But always try and find something. And then I would say, are you trying to build Amway mainly online or offline? And most people will come back to me again and they'll say, actually, I've been trying to build it online for quite a while now, but it's not working for me properly. Some people normally won't say that. They won't admit that it's not working yet, but they'll say where they're trying to build it. So I'm trying to build it online, or I'm trying to build it offline, or I'm doing a bit of both. And often what I'll say then is, which bit are you struggling with the most? Is it generating traffic? Is it generating leads, or is it converting those leads into sales and sign-ups? That's the point where people go, I'm struggling to build my business online. I've been promised all these things and it's not actually working. That's the point where people open up and I've hit my goal. I've got them to admit that they're actually struggling with their business. This is critical, because once you get that, you can start to be the solution provider, and you can start to take people through the process. Now, most of the time, I don't try to close on social media. I pick up the phone. I don't close people on the phone either, generally. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I'm just there. I just show them that I'm an actual person, and I use a consult and close process that I'll cover with you in step 6, where I actually uncover their pains, problems, and challenges, and then offer a solution based on where they're at and what they're struggling with. So, you've created the content that's attracted the people, you've captured the leads, you've connected with the leads, you've got engagement, you've now communicated with purpose, and the purpose is to get the person to admit that they're struggling in their business, so you can then recommend a solution for them. The other communication with purpose is to close them ultimately into a business. Now, again, you can close on social media if you want to, but what you've also got to remember is, whilst you're having a conversation with that person, most of the time, if you've set up your business in the right way, and this is what I teach in Attraction Marketing Academy, you've got an email sequence going out to your prospect on autopilot as well. And your closing can actually be done in your email sequence. So whilst you're having a conversation on Facebook with that person, whilst you're picking up the phone and offering value and helping that person and recommending a solution, your email sequence is going out as well. In addition to that, if you set it up even better, your Facebook retargeting adverts are there as well, which means that your prospect sees you everywhere. They picked up the phone, they spoke to you, you had a conversation with them, they saw a status update, they saw an email from you, they watched a video from you, they listened to an audio from you, they saw a training. You are everywhere. How can you not sponsor people into your business? Now, the big problem that you probably had before was, how do you actually generate leads? How do you create content? How do you take people through this process? Well, you know the process now. The 6-step sponsoring sequence is the most powerful hybrid method that I know of that you can use to sponsor and sign people up into your business. So I'll be back in the next episode to go further into detail about the consultative approach, or step 6, which is close, consult and close. And then you can start to, hopefully you're implementing this into your business already, and you're starting to create that content. You're starting to capture those leads. You're starting to follow up and actually connect with people and create your community, so you can then go through this process as well. But it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So I just want to say a huge thank you again, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.